Okay, awesome. Hello, YouTube. Welcome in. So today we have a new exciting release for SpacetimeDB. This is our release 0.11 beta release. And we are doing it live on Twitch. So if you haven't already, check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpacetimeDB. I'm joined today by Tyler. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm well. How are you?
I am well. Okay, awesome. So I guess anything right off the bat you want to talk about before we go into the release notes?
Sure, I can just kind of lay the groundwork for the purpose of this release. So this release, we're making some important and big internal changes to how the code works, but also cleaning up our APIs and making them ready for 1.0. So this release and the next release are all focused on stabilizing SpacetimeDB so that you all have a stable API to work with, and you can be sure that for the next year and this whole major version, you're going to be able to use the same code that you always have. In this particular one, we have got some very exciting things. So the two major things are that we have pulled out protobuf. We can talk a little bit about why we've done that. And then that's had a big impact on performance and improvement in terms of both the client and server. And then we've also removed the schedule macro and some of the bugs there and introduced table-based timers, which are a much more flexible and exciting new format for our timers.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, the other thing I'll mention quick is the release notes we're looking at right now. I'm actually editing them. The release is not out at the time that we're doing this live on stream. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, it is out. You should be able to go to our GitHub at github.com/clockworklabs/SpacetimeDB and see this new release. But if you can't see it, it is coming very soon. We are expecting it to come out likely today, but we'll see. Awesome. So I'll just quickly read the header here on its own here. So we have a big release for you today. We are including some big performance improvements and long-awaited bug fixes. Remember to stay tuned for the 0.12 release. So I guess I'll ask Tyler, do you want to give anybody a sneak peek or I guess a timeline in terms of what they can expect for 0.12?
Sure. So 0.12 is supposed to be the version of SpacetimeDB that's more or less API stable. We will try to not add any breaking changes after that, but we reserve the right to do one more after that, which is 1.0, of course. We're trying to get this out by the end of August. It's going to be a challenge to do that, so we'll see what we can do. But that is the plan, and it's super exciting.
Awesome. Cool. This release includes some major breaking changes. That's in comparison to 0.10. So you won't be able to use your old database with this version. Run spacetime local clear to remove them. So once we are on 1.0, once the ABI is stable, as Tyler was saying, this won't be needed. Although when we do break the ABI in the future, we'll have migrations. So you'll be able to migrate your data. But for now, we don't have that. Okay, awesome. So important changes, major. We have removed our usage of protobuf in favor of our own internal format. This is a big improvement on the client and the server. So question for Tyler. Why did we have protobuf? Why did we need it? And then why did we remove it ultimately?
So protobuf is used for communication between the client and the server. I believe initially I had used it for some internal messaging as well and storage of message formats. We have removed it because it A, has not been used internally for a long time, and B, had some problems with it that we needed to address. So first of all, it was very slow to serialize, and we opted to go for our own serialization format, which is much more easy for us to optimize and faster. That is called BSAT, which stands for Binary Spacetime Algebraic Type Notation. And the third is that it was missing certain properties that we absolutely needed for our game, which prevented us from using it internally throughout the code base. In that case, those features would be a dynamic representation of the types in memory, whereas protobuf stores them primarily in files and is not well supported the dynamic version. And then the other reason is that it doesn't have a single deterministic serialization format. So two different messages can have different formats. I'm sorry, the same message can be serialized two different ways. And so that was a problem for us. So we've removed it, and that has improved performance significantly, including allowing us to remove it as a dependency from, for example, our TypeScript repository, which means the download size of your TypeScript blob is much, much smaller. And that's the motivation for removing protobuf from SpacetimeDB.
Awesome. I'm trying to think of the other things that we talked about as well. The other thing that we brought up at this point was we're working with an external client who really wants WebGL support in the Unity SDK. Currently, WebGL is not supported in our Unity SDK only because we spawn a network thread, and you cannot have like more than one thread other than the main thread in WebGL. So essentially, the reason why we introduced the network thread was because protobuf was so slow. Specifically for Bitcraft, it was like there was certain subscription messages we were getting, like if you crossed a chunk, it was taking like 800 milliseconds or something to just process the protobuf, which clearly we couldn't have that running on the main thread. So we introduced the network thread. It's possible based off of this change that we could ship a change to the Unity SDK for SpacetimeDB that actually supports WebGL, and the performance I'm hoping will actually be quite good because we removed protobuf. So probably stay tuned for that, honestly, for 0.12 if you're interested in using WebGL with SpacetimeDB. So I think we can do it. Cool. Do you have anything on that, Tyler?
I think that's great. You know, it's really awesome to see our clients excited about SpacetimeDB and actually making changes that let them do things beyond what we already have. And it would be cool to bring their changes back in to SpacetimeDB so we can share them with everyone.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So then the other major thing as part of this release is we removed the server-side schedule macro and its equivalents in favor of table-based timers. Please check out our server module docs for more info on how to use this new system. I would say at the time that we're writing this, the docs haven't been updated. We have a PR to update them. We just haven't merged it in yet. But this is essentially what's in the docs. And we actually... during kind of the first shoot of this, we transferred this example from the docs into the release notes themselves. So I guess, do you want to go over the kind of major change here, Tyler, in terms of how this differs from what we had before?
Sure. So previously, you would use a schedule macro, which would basically allow you to call another reducer from a reducer. That would always schedule regardless of whether the reducer that you were scheduling from failed. Now it's just inserting into a normal table. So you can see at the top here, we have a send message timer table. That table is marked as being scheduled, and the function it should call is the send message function, by the reducer. And you have one argument you can pass, which is the text string of that particular message. And there are two ways to do this. So one is you can schedule at a timestamp. So that'll call that function send message at a particular timestamp, or as near to that as we possibly can. And then in the other example down below, you can schedule it to be repeating. So that would be scheduled every 100 milliseconds indefinitely. And so the send message function will be called there. And you can then have clients subscribe, for example, to the send message timer table if you want people to be able to have clients see the timers. Or you can delete the timers. That'll cause them to no longer be executing. If you have a live running game, this is incredibly important, because if you didn't think to do that previously in SpacetimeDB, you would not be able to delete your timers. You wouldn't be able to pause your game. In this particular case, you can just delete all the timers. Nothing's going to be called. You can then insert all the timers again, and it's going to be called again. So it's a fantastic way to do this, and I'm super proud of the team for having gotten this over the line.
So we have some CLI changes here. So CLI commands consistently use server and identity args instead of anonymous args. Okay, awesome. Have a new subscribe command. That's cool. I didn't know that made it into this release. So the subscribe command, what it's going to be used for is essentially like in the client SDK, you can, call subscribe and give SpacetimeDB some queries, and it's going to return back the rows that match those queries. This essentially allows you to do that from the CLI. So this will go ahead and print out the data that is returned from SpacetimeDB based on your queries. Is that correct, Tyler?
That's right. So it just allows you to, in real time, subscribe things through the CLI. Notably, this is it's going to be an unstable API. That and the SQL one are going to be unstable. So while we are going to provide it to you, I would not, it's subject to change in the future. And so we're going to be marking all of our commands as stable or unstable, so you guys have a good idea of what you can rely on across major releases.
Awesome. And then we just have two smaller bug fixes here, which is good. Web API, so recovery code APIs are now under identity and using post. So this is a breaking change, I believe. So that's something to be aware of. And /identity get returns an empty success if the email address is not found. I think this, we were not able to differentiate the email address not existing or something before, and now we made this change to that. I remember there was an error case that we couldn't catch because we
the error is that it's complicated.
I'm sure I
but
could open this, but
suffice to say that we fixed the issue here. Where are you taking a look at this?
Yeah, it used to just return a 404 before, and now it returns empty success. So we can differentiate.
Couldn't tell if the route was missing or if there were actually no identities. Yeah. You weren't sure if you did the request correctly and there aren't any email addresses, or there aren't any email addresses.
Excellent. So move on to the C# changes. So use latest C# and BSAT and runtime. That's good. So fix exceptions in C# SDK when someone disconnects or when a transaction originates from the CLI. So yeah, there were some bugs in the C# SDK and the Unity SDK with I think handling errors or whatever when something originated from just a CLI call. So we fixed that. Include the BSAT and Cogen in the NuGet pack. Not sure exactly what that is. Then we have generate tagged enums in C# client code. Okay, all right. This was something that I think was kind of in a ticket for a long time. So thank you, Ingvar, for doing this one. This was not supported before. So essentially, if you had is that a tagged enum or not tagged? Essentially, you couldn't have in the C# code generation a enum in Rust where the enum, I don't really know what those are called. I guess this is a tagged enum, or the individual enum values have things associated with them. That was not supported in the C# client code. Now it is. So thank you for that, Ingvar. Restructuring the NuGet package, restructure C# runtime, implements the module RNG proposal for C#. I think we actually changed how RNG works as well. We should have mentioned that in the overall notes. RNG is completely different now. And we should probably include an example as well.
Yeah, that would probably be a good thing.
I'll write that down.
Well, Phoebe also mentioned that the RNG change might actually have been in 0.10, and I think that's correct because new Bitcraft is, the latest alpha is running on the new RNG. So it must be 0.10. I think
you're right, Phoebe, because when I was updating the Minecraft, Minecraft on SpacetimeDB, I was like, oh, I have to update the RNG because the get random thing wasn't compiling, and that I was upgrading to 0.10. So I think you are correct, Phoebe.
So using SpacetimeDB as a library, this section is just talking about some of the internal stuff that we're changing that was only relevant if you're using SpacetimeDB as a library. Moving some things around in preparation for 1.0, cleaning up some internal representations of things, which is actually extremely important. So one of the things that's been not an awesome user experience for people is publishing a new module and knowing what is going to happen. So will it be rejected because the schema changed? What changed about my schema? What's different? So we're building a thing that will show you a diff, right? When you say, hey, I'm going to publish, we'll basically say, hey, here's the diff of all the schema changes and the things we're going to apply to your module. Is that okay? And then you can say yes. And that'll be in sort of three forms. One is just a thing that hey, this is what we're going to do. Two is hey, we're going to warn you, this is going to make this change. Are you sure you want to do this? And then 3 is going to be like, this is an error. We can't make this change unless you do a manual migration. We got a lot of other things, obviously. That's not the only things we worked on. A lot of smaller things, bigger things. It's a very exciting release. We've got the next one already cooking. We've really got it cooking. We've been cooking for a while now. And the next one's big. The next one's really, really big. It's the biggest change you'll have to the API since the first version of SpacetimeDB. What I will say is it's really nice. It's really nice. We've cleaned up a lot of stuff. And I think you're going to love it, to be honest.
Yes, we're very excited for the release of 0.12. 0.12 is obviously, as Tyler said, a huge release. So we are very much awaiting in anticipation to see how that comes along. So yeah. Awesome. So thank you everybody for watching on YouTube. If you haven't already, check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpacetimeDB. Hopefully by the time you're watching this release is actually out. So you can probably check this out today at github.com/clockworklabs/SpacetimeDB. There will be links in the description below. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. So.